In the couple videos I've made talking about Tarkir Dragonstorm so far, I have made it very clear I am super pumped for the set. I think the reveals that we got early on for the set have been great, and there's still plenty to come, but we're going to do a quick pivot here to look at the first commander deck that was revealed. That is the Jeskai Striker deck, so blue, red, white. And I believe Command Zone revealed this, if I remember correctly, earlier today, but I didn't have a chance to really go and do a deep dive on many of the cards with the exception of the face commanders. So I'm going to give you a live react to it now as we go into the video. If you guys do enjoy, be sure to hit that like button and subscribe. Click the bell icon if you want to be notified when new videos are posted. But this should be releasing on the 11th of April. So April 11th is when the decks should be coming out. They are currently available for pre-order on Amazon, and I believe all of them are $44.99. So if there's one that you're interested in, it might not be a terrible idea to lock in a pre-order that you could always cancel later, just because we have seen historically that with some of these commander decks in sets, they spike in price a ton once the reveals are done if there's something really good in it. Just some food for thought, though. I did pre-order one of the decks, but it's not this one. It's, I can't remember off the top of my head which one. But when we get to that deck and the reveals are done, we'll see whether or not I end up keeping it, because I do want to build something around it. So, this deck is coming out. It is red, blue, white, and I think people are really going to like some of the cards in here. Let's look at the commander for Shico and Narset Unified. It is 1 blue, red, white, which is Jeskai colors, of course. Legendary creature, human spirit dragon, flying and vigilance, and it has flurry. It says whenever you cast your second spell each turn, copy that spell if it targets a permanent or player, and you may choose new targets for the copy. If you don't copy a spell this way, draw a card. It's pretty basic, but it's also quite cool. If you can work it out such that the second spell you cast is able to, give you some significant benefits by being able to copy it, obviously that's good. Being able to remove a creature and then copy it or remove another creature is great. And then the fallback, of course, if you can't copy it, you still draw a card for casting your second spell, so it does net you some benefits. It's very clearly a card that is designed to work within blue and red specifically, but it certainly works well with white too. Using something like Path to Exile or Swords to Plowshares to out two problems at once is not something to sleep on, and I do think it's a pretty neat card overall. And it's a 4/4 flying vigilance, so it can kind of swing. Overall, it's a pretty solid card. It's not reinventing the wheel, but it's also got a lot of fun play patterns, I think, as a commander. Now, Elsha Threefold Master is the other face commander for the deck. It is just blue, red, white. Legendary creature, Jin Monk, with trample and prowess. Whenever it deals combat damage to a player, create that many 1/1 white monk creature tokens with prowess. Now, out of the two, this is definitely my preference. I think this card actually has insane potential, especially if you are able to give it haste or buff it up quickly. If this thing's even swinging as a 2 or a 3, you're creating 3, 1/1 white monks with prowess. You're playing stuff like Monastery Mentor, probably. You're playing a bunch of stuff that's going to let you trigger prowess quickly, and with some of the cards we've seen in the main set that are in white that allow you to duplicate tokens and stuff, you can make this become a big problem very quickly, and I just think that's really cool. I'm not a huge fan of decks that are typically is-it focused, but I think having white in here and sort of being a little bit more focused on the prowess element than like spell slinging, makes it really intriguing. So this one I have my eye on personally as a card to potentially look at, build around, but I do think it's the better of the two. That's not to say that Shico and Narset aren't good either. It's just I do see a lot of play combos with this card that I think could be really, really solid. Aligned Heart is 2 and a white enchantment with flurry. Whenever you cast your second spell each turn, put a rally counter on this enchantment. Then create a 1/1 white monk creature token with prowess for each rally counter on it. Obviously, this goes extremely well with the commander we just looked at there with Elsha. This is just a really, really solid card. Again, as long as you can get it out, and for 3 mana in enchantments where you can lower the cost of that stuff, with plenty of things, it's not hard to do. And every turn, or if you're proliferating, which would speed you up, of course, you can just make this an absolute nightmare to deal with. So if you have this that's putting a bunch of monks out, and then you have your commander that's also giving you more monks, you're going to become a problem at the table. But if you play your cards right, you can definitely overwhelm a lot of opponents very quickly. I think it's easy to look at this and say, yeah, this seems decent, but it's also easy to overlook how quickly this can really kind of ramp up with, the other cards that already exist within white, especially when it comes to things that create tokens, right? Anointed Procession and Mondrak and the new Elspeth, all just a few cards that come to mind that will fit really well within the strategy that Elsha is looking to do. Tempest Technique is 3 and a white enchantment aura with Storm. It says enchant creature you control, it gets +1/+1 for each enchantment you control. This is a really, really good. It's not hard to get Storm in a deck where you have so many things that can lower the cost of stuff. So when you factor in, if you're playing this in Jeskai specifically, you're going to be playing probably some lower cost blue and red spells too. You can Storm this pretty easily, but if you're playing this in an enchantment focused deck where you can use cards like Starfield Mystic and, is it the Pegasus? I can't remember the damn name of it off the top of my head, but the Pegasus that lowers the cost of auras. You can get this to cost a lot less and Storm it for more because you're playing other spells before it, and that's just a really, really powerful tool to have access to. Not to mention, just like in general, like if you're playing an enchantment heavy deck, you can buff this up. It's like all that glitters, but you have access to another one. It's a little more expensive mana-wise, of course, but overall, I think it works really well. I don't know that it works super well within, either of these commanders specifically, but it's a really, really strong card for enchantment decks in general, and I think it's absolutely going to have a place in a lot of them. Adaptive Trading Post is 2 and a blue, and it's an artifact. Whenever you cast an instant or sorcery, if this artifact has fewer than 3 charge counters on it, put a charge counter on it. You can remove 3 charge counters from it. When you next cast an instant or sorcery spell this turn, copy it, and you may choose new targets for the copy. This is pretty good. This is absolutely pretty good. I think it's fits right into Spellslinger stuff. You can manipulate this to work pretty easily. I mean, if you get it out for 3 mana and you play 3 low-cost instants of sorceries, then you remove the counters and you copy like a big, powerful one. Pretty straightforward, but it's not bad. And obviously, there are a lot of blue artifact decks that can incorporate this, I think, if you're playing a fair balance of instants and sorceries. It's not the most exciting card in the world, but I do think it's good, and I do think it has some absolute application. Transcendent Dragon is 4 and 2 blue, and it is a dragon creature with flash and flying. When it enters, if you cast it, counter target spell. If that spell is countered this way, exile it instead of putting it into its owner's graveyard, then you may cast it without paying its mana cost. So it's a 6-drop counter spell dragon that gives you free access to cast whatever you're countering, which is definitely worth a bit more mana investment, right? So it's, it's going to be more expensive than your usual counterspell, but you're also getting the opportunity to play something that could be significantly more powerful for you. I don't know necessarily that it slots into anything blue just, off the bat, but I'm sure that decks that are playing dragons and have ways to make the cost cheaper, and some decks that aren't but maybe are playing, a lot of reactionary things, will also be able to find ways for this. This is kind of one of those cards that I read and say, this seems pretty good, but obviously you guys let me know in the comment section down below your thoughts on this if you're someone who plays blue and has thoughts on where this might go, because a lot of this is just me reacting before I even really have a chance to dig into cards and combos that go with it, so sometimes my opinion will change. Now, arguably the best card, I think, in this reveal is Voracious Bibliophile, which is 3 and a blue, creature dragon with flying and vigilance. Whenever you cast a spell with 1 or more targets, draw that many cards. This card, off the bat, is absolutely insane. Of course, it is 4 mana for a lot of insane potential, and I think there's a card actually called Sea King's Blessing, and this card was when Nadu, I'm doing this live, but that's okay, that's just kind of become how we do it now. Sea King's Blessing is on TCG Player. This card is really strong. It says changes the color of 1 or more target creatures to blue until end of turn. So the newer version wording of it, whatever, because it is a reserve list card, basically says target any number of creatures you control, they become blue until end of turn. And so you use that in conjunction with Voracious Bibliophile, and that allows you to just draw a bunch of cards. If you have a bunch of creatures, you make them blue, etc. That card went up for Nadu. Nadu got banned. That card's still got a very limited selection of pricing, but you can get like a heavily played copy, not too bad, but I think like a near mint copy is probably like $20 or so. Just be interesting to watch. I mean, you see the chart there when Nadu got banned and then it tanked, obviously, but we do know that the commander lists may be getting updated pretty soon in April, so just keep an eye on it. But this card is really strong. I think it's just generically really strong, and it's not, I would have expected it to cost 1 more mana with an effect like that, but it doesn't, and that's good, obviously. So we've got Caldera Pyremaw, 3 and 2 red, creature dragon with flying. Whenever you cast an instant or sorcery spell, put a +1/+1 counter on this creature. Then this creature deals damage equal to its power to target opponent. I think it's pretty good. I always like to check the comments sometimes, see if people say anything like, oh, what works really well with this? Someone said Feather the Redeemed works with it, as well as Tempest Technique. That's kind of where I start when I'm looking at some of these previews. Just like, what are other people talking about, and what can I then look at to see how I might want to build these? But it seems cool on the surface. you can definitely deal some damage with, I mean, basically turning all of your instant sorceries into hitting your opponent's cards. It's obvious why this is a commander card and not a standard card, because imagine even at 5 mana, if this was legal in standard, you'd be able to disrupt so much with red and the access to low cost stuff. But it's a cool card. And I mean, there's not much to say about it beyond that, but it's very good, and it can buff itself up quickly and then deal its damage to opponents. Obviously, it sucks that it can't deal it to a creature, but it would probably be too good, because then you could just keep wiping stuff. You can still kind of hit a lot there as you go. Transforming Flourish is 2 and a red instant with Demonstrate. It says when you cast this spell, you may copy it. If you do, choose an opponent to also copy it. Players may choose new targets for their copies. Destroy target artifact or creature you don't control. If that permanent is destroyed this way, its controller exiles cards from the top of their library until they exile it on land. Then they may cast that card without paying its mana cost. So it's like a Chaos Warp that, like, you can give to an opponent, so maybe the hope is that they hit you, and like you can work out some kind of politic thing where it's like, oh, give me a chance to shuffle something back in and get something out. I think it's objectively worse, but I mean, I don't love those random, like, I guess if you're getting rid of something really problematic and you're taking the gamble that whatever they get is not as bad, you know, there is that, but it's okay. I don't think it's as good as Chaos Warp, though, just on paper. I mean, unless I'm missing something, which of course is certainly possible. And finally, we have Will of the Jeskai. This is 3 and a red sorcery. Choose one. If you control a commander as you cast this spell, you may choose both instead. Each player may discard their hand and draw 5 cards. Each instant or sorcery card in your graveyard gains flashback until end of turn. The flashback cost is equal to its mana cost. It's an objectively worse Jeska's Will, I think. I mean, obviously it's a little different, and you can see the inspiration there. But I don't necessarily love it. The only thing is, I mean, being able to discard your hand and draw up in red is always nice, but then everyone can do it. So it's sort of like, unless you're comboing this with, you know, Valgavoth and stuff like that, where you can punish your opponents for drawing, so maybe they won't want to. But then again, they could just maybe choose not to, and I mean, who knows? There's obviously a lot of different circumstances in which that could play out, but I don't think it's anything crazy. As a whole, I find this deck to be pretty underwhelming. I know I said some positive things about a lot of the cards. I do think Elsha is really strong, and I also think Voracious Bibliophile is just going to be a super powerful card. Everything else in here feels like it has some application in certain things. I just don't necessarily feel that much excitement for them, but we'll have to see, because a lot of times these things come out and people discover more combos. It's only been a couple of hours since these have been revealed, so I'm sure minds are somewhere hard at work cooking up strategies that I'm going to hear about and be like, holy shit, you're right, this could easily be busted. But that's kind of why I like to do these reviews kind of blind for the most part, because it gives me a more authentic, like, initial reaction, and then certainly can always come back to it later and say, hey, I guess I was wrong. But let me know what you guys think of this. Are you interested in the Jeskai Striker deck? Are you planning on buying it? If not, why? Otherwise, I'll catch you in the next video.